Okay, welcome to the Lovecraft eZine videocast and podcast. Today is August the 7th, 2016, and we, as we often do, did not have a guest scheduled today because we're just gonna gab about geeky topics like we tend to do. But at the last minute, I wanted to get just briefly a couple of guys in here. John with Herald. Riley, that's how you say your last name, right, John?
Yes.
John Riley with Herald. We'll talk to him in a minute, and then Will Severin, the guy who did the Thing on the Doorstep movie, has got an album out, so we'll talk to him a little bit later on too. So I'm going to start doing this at the beginning of every broadcast so that I don't forget. First of all, the winners for last week's, excuse me, it was 2 weeks ago. Last podcast was. I don't have his last name yet. I won't say his last name. His name's Mark, and he won that Spirit of Revision prize of yours, Matt.
What are you talking about?
I'm just announcing prize winners from last time. And then, boy, I'm really not going to say this name. Ninad Pejic won the Starry Wisdom Library Audible code. So I've sent that to him already too. So this week's prizes, Matt, you've got something, and Will's going to give away some stuff too. So what's your prize, Matt?
It's really cool. Unfortunately, I don't have the toolbar to reverse it, but it is a copy of the Nightmare Stacks in hardcover by Charlie Strauss.
No, it's coming fine this way. You're fine.
Okay. It's the latest book in the Laundry series.
Oh, that's hardcover too, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's great.
It's the Ace edition with the U.S. cover.
Awesome. That's a great prize.
Yeah.
And then, Will, what are you giving away?
I've got two actual hard copy CDs of our new release, Honor of the Dark.
Okay.
To yours.
All right, so we're going to give away three prizes then. Two of the albums, two of the CDs, and one book. And we'll get to that a little bit later in the show, but that's not just for the live viewers. You can win that anytime this coming week. So let's do brief introductions. Start with Matt and work our way over. Matt?
Hi, I'm Matt Carpenter. I help edit the print and online edition of Lovecraft eZine, the latest edition of which is coming out soon, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, probably in the next 3 weeks or so. Yeah. So, yep. Joe? Or do we need to come back to Joe?
No, I had to turn it off.
Okay.
I'm Joe Pulver, writer, editor, anthologist.
Kelly?
I'm Kelly Young. I am the executive editor of Strange Eons magazine.
You're still just the executive editor.
I'm gonna smack your ass.
Okay, Pete.
I'm Pete Rollick, author of Reanimator's Weird Company and the forthcoming Reanimatrix.
Rick.
I'm Rick Lay. I write pulp hero fiction and sometimes Lovecraftian fiction.
And I'm Mike Davis. I'm executive editor at Lovecraft eZine. Okay, so Mr. John Riley, will you start and take a minute or two to talk about the comic and then talk about the Kickstarter that's based on that comic? Oh, hang on a second. SP is back. I think we lost SP for a second. Can you do a brief introduction, SP?
Yes. Hello. SP Miskowski, fiction writer, and I'm happy to be joining you guys.
Great to have you.
I'm not a Lovecraft expert by any means, and I'm not a gamer, but I'm happy to be here, and I'm interested in what you guys have to say.
Cool.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm Severin, producer of Thing on the Doorstep film, and the lead singer and producer of Infinite Spectrum's new release, Honor of the Dark. Mike, thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And sorry, I was going to get to you in a bit, so I didn't want you to think I forgot about you. So sorry about that. Oh, okay. So John, Herald, the comic, and then talk about the Kickstarter after that.
Yeah, so I write Herald, Lovecraft, and Tesla, which is an ongoing series. We planned out 54 issues before getting the first one down. Our first 6, 1, 2, and 3 in History in the Making, and then 4, 5, and 6 in Fingers to the Bone. Number 7, 8, and 9 are coming out this fall. So it's kind of a lighter version of Lovecraft, I guess. It's kind of a pulpy action-adventure piece. We start off with Nikola Tesla is engaged to Amelia Earhart, and she steals one of his prototype magnetic engines to fly across the Atlantic solo. She gets sucked into another dimension while crossing, and so he's got to find some way to get around, and after a series of events happen, he gets paired up with H.P. Lovecraft, and they get caught up in this whole global conspiracy to resurrect Cthulhu. And along the way, we've got Harry Houdini and Thomas Edison as a major villain, and Albert Einstein, and a host of other people I don't want to reveal. And so that happened. I guess the first issue came out December of 2014, and last year we ended up getting option for TV, and I think that got us some positive buzz about the whole thing. So this might have been, I don't know, it might have been 6 or so something months ago. Another company, Raven Desk Games, that put out the last one they put out is called Vurt, V-U-R-T, based on, if you're familiar with the novel series. It's kind of a I haven't read it myself, but just based on the artwork and the descriptions for it, it seems kind of a half Matrix, cyberpunk-ish kind of alternate world kind of thing. So they took that novel series and they put together a successful Kickstarter that they were showing off at Gen Con the last couple days. And while they were looking at another project, they came to me and said, "Hey, look, we'd like to do something with TV with you." And I said, "Hey, I'm actually tied up with these other guys, but I also noticed that you're doing some RPG stuff, and I've been playing role-playing games since I was in 6th grade. So if you'd be interested in that, I'd be very interested in the." So he jumped at the chance. Was very excited that I had been playing it before. So they're going to have me write some of the rulebook material, some side adventure stuff for it, because I've been running some campaigns for quite a while with my set of players.
Yeah, and I was going to say that it seems to me that your comic is just a match made in heaven for an RPG. In my opinion.
I think so. I think quite a lot of where I'm getting some of the ideas from, it comes from playing years of playing RPGs and seeing how a plot kind of plays out, and how you can turn an adventure out from a couple core pieces just based on a good mix of characters that kind of that work together or don't work together. So a lot of the stuff that I'm writing seems like it's coming from a place of kind of tapping into that being a kid, and then this monster shows up, and then this fun thing happens, and then, oh, what about, all that kind of stuff that you're trying to throw at your players to kind of get them excited and wow them. Is the same, all those same audience principles apply when you're writing something.
Before I forget to ask, can we go back to the comic for a second? Where can people buy the comic? Do they just go on Amazon and type in Herald, Lovecraft, and Tesla, or what should they do?
That's one way. I think I'm sorry?
There are compilation issues for 1 through 6 on Amazon. I posted the link on the web page.
Okay.
Oh, cool. You guys are much better at the salesmanship of it than I am. I appreciate it. So you should be able to get it through any comic shop. You should be able to get it through any comic shop. They, assuming that it's not like a really tiny one in the mall that only carries Marvel and DC and doesn't have room for some of the indie publishers. We go through Action Lab Entertainment, which is they're typically in the top 20 in terms of size and sales, and Marvel and DC are obviously at the top, and then there's usually a kind of a mid-tier group, and then pretty much everything below that is considered an indie publisher. So we're within the top 20 of those, however many thousands of publishers are underneath that.
Yeah.
So you should be able to order it from any comic shop, or Amazon can handle it too.
I have a question.
Yeah, Matt.
You got delayed, didn't you? Because there was a period where there weren't any new ones coming out for a while.
Yeah, so we've got day jobs, and it takes some time to get the artists to get the material out, because they've got this is kind of a labor of love between Tom, Dex, and I, who put it out. Tom and Dex are the artists. One of the things that the Kickstarter wanted to really make sure of, which is why the price is set the way it is they wanted to make sure that the artists who do the comic are actually going to be doing all the interior artwork and all the materials for the book. So they wanted to maintain that consistency, and it wasn't a difficult argument to make with them, but we wanted to pay them their fair commission rate to get that going. So to answer your question, yeah, there's going to be delays between the issues, or between the arcs. 7, 8, and 9 are done. They're in the pipe. They're coming out starting in September. And I know that Tom is working on number 10 at the moment. But between 7, 8, and 9 and 11, 12, 13, 10, 11, 12, because we're clumping everything together into 3-issue arcs. Yeah, there might be some gaps between it there. It's kind of when you're not getting a regular full-time income from it, you gotta put out.
We all understand that, believe me. Yeah. And I've read the first couple a year ago, and I remember them as being very enjoyable, very fun. Matt, you've read more than that, haven't you?
It's a great series. I've read the first 6. I was actually just waiting for the next 3 to come out. That's what I was kind of saying. Not that I'm impatient.
Quit your job. Quit your job.
It's very entertaining. It's fun. The art is good. I mean, there's really nothing not to like.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, so the Kickstarter, as of this moment, it's at 15,730.
Mm-hmm.
With 8 days left, you guys have a goal of $20,000. And I don't know, it just seems like a really cool, if you're a gamer, RPG, player, it seems like a really cool thing. And when I've posted it on the Lovecraft eZine Facebook page, I've gotten a big positive response. So I think you guys are on the right track. So.
Yeah, we're I know there's a spike in the beginning and then a spike at the end, and we're hoping to get there. Some of the stuff they want to unlock is additional maps that they're putting together for the players. I know that Tom has been designing 3D pewter figurines of all the major historical people that you're going to be able to tack on as an add-on, which is really exciting for me. Used to paint those things as a kid, so that's going to be a little surreal to be able to paint something from something that I made.
Yeah. What was I going to ask? Anything else you want to say about the role-playing game itself?
We're using the Savage Worlds rule system, which is done through Pinnacle. That's another part of the price, is we're licensing it out to make sure that we're not building something from the ground up. We're not having to play test something for 3 years and have weird delays for it. This is everything's balanced out. We're just adding some more materials. We're adding some bits where there's kind of a modular tech tree, so to speak, that you can kind of put pieces of Tesla's equipment together into kind of modify your own gun, or modify a weapon, or modify some piece of equipment or armor, or something that might be useful. So we're taking the existing rule system of Savage Worlds and putting that together that people are into, and that I guess the only other thing is that the people, myself included, the people that are putting it together, they really, I've talked with them enough. They really care about role-playing games and how players' interactions with the game come through. They really care about the game that they're putting together.
Yeah. Yeah. That shows, from what I can tell. All right. So I posted the link in today's blog post at the Lovecraft eZine website. But if you're listening to this later, sometime within the next 8 days of August the 7th, 2016, and this sounds interesting to you, then just Google Kickstarter and Herald, Lovecraft, and Tesla. And I'm sure that'll bring you right to it. So, and, you know, get in on this. All right. Anyone have any questions for John before we let him go, or did I cover everything?
No, but I'd like you to come back if you hear anything more about the TV stuff.
Yeah, good point.
Yes. I've read the script that they put together for the first episode. They had shopped it around to a couple people, and then I think their option is still for another, I don't know how many months. So we'll see what happens. But if anything happens, I'll be the first person to shout it to everybody that I know. Yeah.
Is it animated or live action or?
It was live action from the beginning. Yeah. I don't know if they haven't discussed anything about switching it over to animation, but it was going to be live action from the beginning. Yeah.
Awesome.
Can we all have a ride in your Rolls Royce after this gets made?
You can have a ride in my Toyota Paseo. However many of you will fit in a '94 black Toyota Paseo, I am happy to drive you around town.
I don't know, man. That gets made, you might be buying a new car. I don't know how all that stuff works, but I'm assuming they have to throw some money your way.
Well, yeah, that's the hope.
All right, man. Well, thanks for coming back on again and again.
Thank you. Thank you very much, guys.
Folks, just Google Herald, Lovecraft, and Tesla on Kickstarter. So yeah. Thanks, John. Good to see you again.
Guys. Take care.
You too.
Take care, man.
All right. So you know what? We should have Kelly do this Will Severin interview, shouldn't we?
How you're just gonna toss that on me?
Yeah, why not?
It's gonna be a big messy blowjob because not only do I love everything.
Okay, we just went to red PG.
I love Will. I've known him for a couple of years now, and just a really good dude. Where do you want to start? Do we want to kind of do the life story, or do we want to start with the thing on the doorstep? Will, how did you get involved in that?
Yeah, where were you born anyway? Let's start there.
Where was I born, huh? Wow. This is going to be a very long story, man.
We want to hear the journey.
Exactly. All those high points and those beautiful turns and my tale of my life. Anyway, we'll probably just talk about this record, man. Otherwise, it's going to be way too long. But I appreciate you bringing up Thing on the Doorstep. And actually, Mike and I spoke about it briefly, and we'll probably be making the film festival rounds again this year. It's kind of almost an episodic type short that we're thinking maybe part of an anthology, or maybe we're not sure if it's part of a series. Kind of plays a little bit Twilight Zone-like, but it is Lovecraft-inspired. And looking forward to you guys kind of checking this out. But basically reteamed with Tom Glissman, the guy that directed Thing on the Doorstep. And Mary Jane Hansen is in it, and she also scripted for us. So that's something that's going to be coming down the pipe probably over the next few months, and we'll see where that leads us. But that's been a fun project. And then the other sidebar here is the new Infinite Spectrum record, which was released on June 24th internationally. And we've been getting some really good feedback on it. And it's our second record. First record was a concept-based, progressive metal record. And this time out, my suggestion was like, hey, you should really do Lovecraft. It's obviously something I love and I feel strongly about. But, I think it's the right vehicle for it. Something a little different. In any event, I'll hand it off to you, Kelly, if you want to ask some questions, because you have heard it. So.
Yeah, man, I listened to it a couple of times the other day, and I just loved it. It's got it's a rock opera, and if you're familiar with the Haunter of the Dark story, you can follow it completely. It's very true to the story. I guess what shocked me the most, now, in the first Infinite Spectrum album, didn't you do the guitar work?
No, the first Infinite Spectrum record, I was the vocalist, and then did some additional orchestration work and was the co-producer.
Okay.
Obviously one of the co-writers.
Well, I was really surprised to find out you were the vocalist, because I was listening to this going, this sounds a lot like, I don't know if anybody else on the panel listens to the same kind of music I do, which is everything, but it had a very European metal sound to it, and I was like, who'd they get this guy with this kind of cool rock opera voice and all this? And then when I was messaging you about it, you said that you were the singer, and I was kind of blown away. And you've got some real chops, brother.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
So the first one was a concept album. This also is a concept album, and you've got obviously some real affection for Lovecraft. Why this? Why Haunter of the Dark?
Well, I mean, the thing that appealed to us, like, we looked at a bunch of different Lovecraft stories. One of the things that, we kind of sat on was the fact that it is kind of told from a singular perspective, and there aren't really many other characters that you're dealing with. It really is pretty much Robert Harrison Blake. That's it. And there's also, again, that kind of parallel where it's like, is it a descent into madness as opposed to taking it literally? That was appealing to us. But just it seemed like a tight story. There was enough fantastical stuff, but it seemed like there were moments where you could kind of bring this thing down to be a little more solitary as opposed to the big, more epic type numbers, when you get into kind of the history of what's happened at the church or, the Haunter itself. So, but I think the singular perspective more than anything else was the real appealing factor.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Mike Gallagher Dreams in the Witch House rock opera, which they brought a ton of different people in to do all these things, and I'm actually pretty good friends with him, so I got to see what was going on in his head as he was writing these songs and trying to make it fit into a story. How difficult is that? Now you know this story, you've got to write 10 songs that somehow tell this story. How long does something like that take? Where do you start? What makes a scene that's worth writing a song about?
Right. Well, I and the guys, Alex Rapetti and Alex Rakin, the bass player and the guitar player in the band, kind of like, corresponded quite a bit about how we're going to break this down. And it really did start with the story itself and how we were going to basically turn that into what became, the 10 cuts that you hear on the record. So thematic elements that you wanted to bring back in certain numbers and, how you're weaving this thing together, but it's also, okay, well, what are you going to encapsulate within one number? How far along the journey of the story are we going to get? What seems satisfying? So, I mean, it really is kind of like we did pay serious attention to the story, and then also, lyrically speaking, trying to be respectful and true to Lovecraft. So, yeah, I mean, it's a back and forth process, no question. But basically, it was really kind of building that outline from the get-go. And things did, to some degree, kind of start lyrically give us a base for where we were going.
Yeah, and since it's been out, you've gotten some decent press, not just the blurbs from some mainstream magazines and stuff, and the stuff that goes on in Europe. And we should let everyone know that Europe embraces this kind of music far more than America does anymore. They still have these huge, gigantic metal festivals and stuff like that going on, and this music is a big deal over there. But then I saw one of the blurbs was from Buckethead, who, prior to this Guns N' Roses reunion, was the Guns N' Roses guitarist.
It was actually Bumblefoot.
Bumblefoot. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's since the first record, we got some nice notices with the first record. This one being with Laser's Edge has been a big boon for us, and we're fans of a lot of the groups that are on the label, which is kind of fits into a similar milieu of what we're doing. But you're absolutely right, man. It is one of those things where progressive rock, progressive metal in general, it just has more of a there's more of a welcome for it in European markets as opposed to here in the States. I mean, you've got bands like Dream Theater that are still carrying that torch. And, I think there's definitely, you can hear some of that inspiration in our music as well. But, again, it's one of those things, we're doing it for the love. We'll see what happens. But, we've been getting a lot of really nice press from some mainstream outlets, and we have more things coming up and, some nice live opportunities. We're doing actually a show with, it's Carl Palmer. There's a big progressive, festival we're doing in Chicago. At Reggie's late in October, so that should be a cool show. It's not really a festival, and got some New York City gigs coming up as well. But It's been fun, and it's been really cool when we've had the opportunity to do the show live, because we do really do it pretty damn close to the record. And we have tried to basically, book a number of dates where essentially you're able to kind of do it from start to finish. So anybody that comes to the show, you get the full story from start to finish, as opposed to kind of an abridged thing that you get with kind of an opening slot. So, yeah, we've been having a lot of fun with it, and, where it seems to be getting out, we hope people dig it. I mean, we're big Lovecraft fans, so hopefully that'll communicate to other Lovecraft fans or progressive music fans, and there you go.
Yeah, how cool. I didn't realize that you were doing live shows that were basically the entire set of the album. That's really cool.
Yeah, we've got another one coming up, I think, August 21st in New Jersey. We play September 6th at Webster Hall with Haken and Thank You Scientist. I know we've got the show coming up in Chicago. I think there's another one in New York in October. But, we're basically cobbling dates together. But, yeah, it's a cool thing, man. It's a cool thing. And if you like the style of music, the representation is there, too. So.
Yeah. I'm a big fan. Does anybody else have questions about this?
I don't about the album, except I just wanted to point out that it's available for sale, that people can buy the CD. They can also just download the MP3 for, I think it's $5.99.
Yeah, it's available on Amazon. You can search Infinite Spectrum Haunter of the Dark on Amazon, and it's right there. You can also go to lasersedge.com, and they also have it there for sale. And I think they have a link to a 24-bit version, which is like a higher audio file version, if that's something you're into. But yeah, thank you.
I'm just going to say something wishful thinking-wise. Every year at Necronomicon, they have live play performances like they had, I forget what it was, Radio Theater of New York. They had the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society. They actually had a performance of a play about Lovecraft each time that I've been there. I don't see why they couldn't have a live rock opera.
God, that's a great idea.
I know it's a great idea.
We'd love
Well,
to.
you had it, I know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that was redundant, wasn't it?
I'd love to hear this live, man.
You got to pitch it to Niels.
But I'm hoping he listens. Isn't he a fan of yours, Mike?
Who?
Niels.
Niels? He puts up with me occasionally, if that's what you mean. If that's how we're defining fan these days, then yes, he's a fan.
So you want a live rock opera? I want a live human sacrifice. I don't see why we can't compromise.
We actually do that in the middle of our show, just so that you know. So.
Excellent.
I mean, it's a great idea, and you've got a year to plan.
The human sacrifice? Well, I've been thinking about it for 4 or 5 years now.
Well, no, you could do it on a day's notice, I know, because you're all set. But I'm just talking about the concert.
We'll see what happens, man. But maybe I'll reach out to Nell, see what he has to say. But that would be a cool thing.
Was there any?
Hillside Thickets performed music at Waterfire one year, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that first Necronomicon when they came back, 2013.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. You haven't been on the on a slightly different topic, Will. You haven't been on the show for a while, so I wanted to make people aware that don't know about it, about the thing on the doorstep. Could you talk for a minute about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, Thing on the Doorstep, released, I think it was in 2015 on DVD. But we got a distributor for it, and you can get it on demand. It's on Amazon as well as a bunch of other video on demand outlets. And it is still out there. And like I said, it's been doing fairly well for us. We enjoyed making it. Again, for us, it was really being true to Lovecraft. So if you appreciate Lovecraft for being a true Lovecraftian and the slow burn of things, I think it works for some people. Other people, it's not the whole, it's not a gore fest, man. It's much more psychological. It takes its time.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. It's a good movie.
Cool, thanks, man. But that's still out there and available. And like I said, we've got another short coming up that's inspired by an H.P. Lovecraft story, but I don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
But that'll be hitting festivals, like I said, in probably a few months. So looking forward to you guys checking that out as well.
All right, so if people are interested in the thing on the doorstep, they can go to Amazon and buy the DVD. They can also buy it or rent it on digitally, on demand.
Correct.
So have you guys just as an aside, have you guys talked to Netflix about it? How does that even work?
It is kind of interesting because once you're basically on Netflix, that's kind of like it. Insofar as like a lot of other outlets are kind of in revenue streams are dead to you, because it's just prevalent. So a lot of guys will try to exhaust all the possibilities everywhere else because with the indie stuff especially, it's like it takes there's no big checks, man. It's like it's drips and drabs, so it takes time.
Yeah.
So by the time you get to like the point where it's like, yeah, I guess we'll see if Netflix will take it, you've kind of cannibalized your sales at that point. So for some bigger outlets where they've already made their big chunk of change, or they've been through the whole process of essentially being viewed at different outlets, then you kind of end up at Netflix.
I didn't know if Netflix said, okay, here's a big check if we take you, and it kind of makes up for individual sales. I don't know how it works.
Right. I mean, we're not playing at that level yet, you know what I mean?
Well, I know, you're right. I mean, because if I run across a movie on Amazon that is available for rent, and I want to watch it, the first thing I do is check and see if it's on Netflix or Hulu.
Right.
My subscription services. So yeah, you would lose those sales if you're on Netflix.
Exactly.
So, all right, great. Well, you said you were going to hang around while we talked about other stuff, right?
Totally. And I just wanted to mention again the short that we have coming out is called The Outage, and look for that at film festivals across the country within the next few months into the fall and into the winter. But looking forward to sharing that with you guys as well.
Yeah.
Hey, I've got one last question. Will, have you guys thought about? I mean, you guys are doing films and you're doing music. Have you thought about doing some kind of? I know nobody even watches videos anymore, but a video of a single or something. The song "The Calling" really spoke to me.
That's cool that you're bringing that up, man. Because we're actually probably later this week there'll be an exclusive release of a lyric video. It's mostly graphics oriented for "The Calling."
Okay.
And then we do have "The Stranger Things I've Learned" is going to be our second lyric video. And then I think we're probably going to do a live performance video that's going to be "Fear." That's going to be the number that we're going to do.
Oh, cool. Are you guys doing the lyric videos yourself?
Actually, guy that I know is kind of putting those things together for us.
Okay.
If you're interested after the fact, I'll basically get you the info.
I'm curious about that. We've spoken a little bit about my brother's band doing stuff, and we shot a really inexpensive video for them. But I was like, if I knew how to do a lyric video, that's kind of the way to go these days.
Well, I mean, it's the whole issue of like how much stuff you can have in the pipeline to keep your project alive. And I think the performance video stuff is great, but it is how many other elements, how many other things can you have to basically continue to get out there to the media to keep it going. So the lyric video stuff makes a lot of sense because just for what your expenditures are on something like that, it's much more conducive as opposed to doing the live video shoot.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the imagery you're talking about being in the background, is that going to be imagery specific to the song?
It is actually.
Cool.
Yeah, so I'll share it with you guys shortly. It's gonna be out this week, so I'll get you guys the link so you can check it.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks, brother.
I'll just say too that and I linked to this at the blog post at the Lovecraft eZine website. There's a short music, preview trailer, I guess you would say, for the album.
You can see artwork there, yeah, exactly, Mike.
Yeah, and some of the music and so forth.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Cool.
So, Honor of the Dark, Infinite Spectrum. Google that. Google that on YouTube too, or Google that plus YouTube if you want to check out that teaser trailer.
Yeah.
So.
And I just want to give a shout out quick, if you don't mind, to Chris
No,
Tyne,
go ahead.
our co-producer and engineer extraordinaire, and the guys in the band, Alex Rapetti, bass player, Alex Rakin, guitar player, Greg Schwab's our drummer, and Katie Papnos is our keyboard player. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them.
Who's the keyboard player?
Katie Papnos.
If she's not a huge Emerson, Lake and Palmer fan, I will eat my hat.
She also plays electric harp, which is interesting.
Okay, I was listening to this stuff going, wow, this is amazing. Everybody is really amazing. It's a great album.
Great players, and they're all great guys too.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
Well, I'll give a shout out too. I want to give a shout out to Brandy because I know I gained at least one live viewer the day that Kelly Young joined the show. So.
No, I thought Brandy stopped watching when Kelly joined.
Probably. That's probably closer.
I thought so, but I learned differently. So.
Oh, and I also have to say, Kelly,
Yeah.
that is awesome that you have a Damnation Alley poster in the background there. That's
Oh, you can see that.
awesome. Where's Jan Michael Vincent when you need him?
Right?
Matt, I don't know if you want to name names or anything like that, but you got an email from someone who's very knowledgeable and will come on the show probably sometime in the next 6 months or so about the Lovecraft estate stuff. Do you want to say anything about that?
I have to say, it was a humbling letter for me. It was the nicest letter, you know, and certainly he wasn't trying to, but it was just obvious that this person actually knew what they were talking about in terms of the contents of the gift the Lovecraft estate made to Arkham House and different reasons that people think different people own a piece of the estate, such as it is. Whether it's still of existence, I don't know. But this is a very interesting topic, and we didn't do it justice in terms of the depth, because clearly all of us, we kind of know a little bit, things we've read online or at the back of books, but there are people who've actually looked at the documents, and this will be a discussion for later, probably in a couple months. I was referred to an essay in a book by Wandry from Arkham House that I'm going to dig up, and I was also given another online reference. But just people who are interested in this subject, just hang on, wait a couple of months, and we'll be getting back to you.
Was the book Don't Dream?
Yes. Which I don't have, but I found an inexpensive used copy that I ordered.
So to clarify, this guy either watched the show or was listening to the podcast version, and
yeah, people actually do that. Who knew?
Yeah, well, I've heard. Yeah, and then I came after you sent me those emails. I did a little bit more research. I put me in the category of not knowing very much about this, except for the very basics. And I just posted it on the message board. But there was a very interesting online paper written, and I don't know who the author is right now, but I just linked to that, and it seems to come to the conclusion that Arkham House itself didn't really think that it had a piece of the estate. So, I mean, I'll leave it there, but it's a long, dense read, but that guy obviously knows what he's talking about as well. So.
And besides, the copyrights were never renewed, and now it's been more than 50 years. So anything that was... The real question is, what about stuff that wasn't published in Lovecraft's lifetime? You know, because that... And I don't even know what that constitutes. But anything published in his lifetime, I think, has been out of copyright since the 1980s.
Well, I want to get... Go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry.
That would constitute the Dream Quest of Unknown Kadath and the Case of Charles Sexton Ward, among some other things. But those would be the two major components.
You know, heck, if I know the provenance of the copyright for those works, I'm just going to stop.
Well, the last thing I'll say on it for now, because I do want to get this guy on here because he obviously knows a lot more than we do. But it seems to me that there's actually kind of two separate questions or two separate things at play. The first thing is, are they out of copyright? You know, in other words, publishing Lovecraft stories, are they in the public domain? And then the other question is, building on the themes of Lovecraft and his world, you know, how does that come into play with all of this as well? So,
So, in other words, I need to trademark Cthulhu.
yeah, good luck.
So, Mike, you know that Black Seas of Copyright thing you posted, I'd actually approached that guy probably 6 or 8 years ago about publishing his thesis. And he was interested but had reservations because a lot of the stuff that he had set forth, because Arkham House refused to answer his questions on it, he could not verify. But yeah, that thing that you posted, Black Seas of Copyright, is pretty brilliant work.
You know, April Derleth died suddenly, and I don't think, what was she, in her 50s or something? I don't think her kids knew much about it, to be honest. The publishing house is barely extant anymore.
Well, quite honestly, the whole thing is murky enough that I don't think anyone has anything to worry about, but it is an interesting topic, you're right. So
if you got a tattoo of Cthulhu on your butt, you don't have to worry, they're coming for you.
thank God.
Nice, Kelly.
So that's a nice, speaking of Kelly publishing things, that's a nice segue into, I was going to torture Kelly for a couple of minutes and talk about Strange Eons, because we've never done that.
He wanted to say something first, I think.
So?
Yeah, speak up there. Assholes on this. SP, why are you here?
Sorry, go ahead, Pete. Why am I don't know why.
You must hate us all.
No, I love you all. I love you. You know,
He doesn't
particularly because you get me inebriated.
I was talking to SP. I know you love me, Pete.
Oh, okay.
Who doesn't?
I'm very lonely. I sit around and I just watch you guys. So yeah, when Mike asked me to join in, you know, it was sad. It was pathetic, and he said,
That's not why I asked you. Oh my God.
No. SP, you misunderstood. He didn't say it was sad and pathetic. He said you were sad.
I was sad. Yeah, I was sad and pathetic, and I begged her to come on the show. I said, please, class the place up. You see what I'm dealing with here.
Oh, yeah, right.
So a couple of episodes ago, we talked about, you brought up King Kong. And you wanted to know if anybody had ever tied King Kong into mythos.
Yes.
Well, my colleague Micah Harris has written a story called On the Periphery of Legend, which is in Jim Anthony the Hunter's collection. And it tells, Carl Denham is in there, and he talks about how he's gone to Dunwich and he's filmed the megalithic ruins there. So there you go. There's your tie-in.
All right.
Okay. Little bit, you know. That's all I want.
There's also a story by David C. Smith, who did some of the Robert E. Howard continuations. And he had started to do it was a pirate named Black Volmia, who was created by Robert E. Howard, but that series got canceled, so he turned it into his own character. And I believe it's an ebook called Waters of Death, I think. And it ends after this very Lovecraftian adventure. They're trying to locate an island whose coordinates are Skull Island.
No.
So you have a connection there, too.
When does King Kong come out anyway? That's not out yet, is it?
No.
No, they just had a trailer update at Comic-Con.
Okay.
I had an idea that if I ever saw Will Murray, since he's doing King Kong crossovers now, you could never really have the classic Kong Battle Cthulhu. But I was thinking Dagon would be a good fit for him. They're probably about the same size.
So Kelly, Strange Eons, you know, obviously a much classier magazine than Lovecraft eZine. We'll start there.
How funny you mentioned that, because I always thought that if the Lovecraft eZine was Playboy, then Strange Eons is definitely Hustler.
I was going to say
Oh,
Penthouse.
you're not Hustler. You're Cherry.
Exactly the analogy I was thinking of.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad I don't know what you're talking about, Pete.
Maybe even high society, but you're not Hustler.
How's that working for you, Mike? Bringing SP in to class the place up.
I don't know. Hopefully this won't be your one and only time, thanks to you guys.
I'll claim technical problems and fade away.
Yeah. So I think you've been doing Strange Eons about what 6 months to a year longer than I've been doing Lovecraft eZine. Does that sound about right? When did you start Strange Eons?
Started Strange Eons in 2010, the beginning of 2010.
Okay,
But prior
so
to that,
yeah, a year.
Planet Lovecraft, which if I had been able to keep that name, I probably would have just kept that name. And I started that back in 2008.
What happened there? We don't know.
Yeah.
I had a business partner there who I had managed to get interested in doing kind of an old creepy heavy metal style magazine, and it was just split 50-50. I did all the work, he put up all the money. When things started going bad in the economy, he said he was probably going to pull out, and that was with issue 4 of Planet Lovecraft. And at that time, a buddy of mine, Rick Tillman, who was a filmmaker, musician, he really enjoyed the magazine and said, I'd love to come on, and I'll take over the money. And so I approached my partner at the time, and he said, that's fantastic. Our 50-50 deal still stands, so whatever he gets comes out of your 50% of this.
What?
And well, I mean, that was the deal he made, and I signed that contract, and I said, okay, you know what, that makes sense to me. And so we rebranded, and we decided to go a little differently with the magazine and start bringing fiction into it and articles, and we had game supplements back in the beginning, stuff like that. So yeah, that was we premiered that at Emerald City Comic Con in April of 2010.
So for those who don't know, Strange Eons is a print magazine. Well, Lovecraft eZine is too, but the heart of it is the website version. And you don't just do stories; you do comics, artwork, interviews, and so forth. Can you talk about all that? What's a average issue of Strange Eons like?
Well, it's changing as we've tried to figure out what we really wanted the magazine to become. Originally, it was described to me as the love child between Weird Tales and Heavy Metal magazine. And we kind of embraced that, especially with our covers. So you can see that with Strange Eons 1, we got a big Cthulhu there, but then as you get into issue 10, everything starts getting a little creepy, sexy, and then by issue 18, we're doing this kind of stuff. And as we got further and further along, it is very hard to find Lovecraftian comics and curate that kind of material on a quarterly basis that was of the quality we wanted. But we also found it difficult. The covers were kind of titillating, but if you were looking for heavy metal, you weren't going to find it inside. With issue 1, we had luckily I had enough friends in the industry, so I was able to get Joe to give me a story for issue 1, and Cody Goodfellow for issue 2, and as that kept going on, I started running out of friends, and I'm not a big fan of reading through slush piles, and I had made the magazine invitation only for that purpose, but pretty quickly I was running out of resources, and so around issue 9, we brought in Ted Grau as a fiction editor, and he started reading everything. And he was able to bring us in then Stephen Graham Jones and Scott Nicolay, and all of a sudden the the quality of the stuff we were doing was closer to what I had envisioned, which was not Lovecraftian fiction so much as just weird horror. And then from there, Rick and I both decided that this was the direction we wanted to go, and with issue 18 we brought in Justin Steele, and with Justin he got us Michael Sisko, Michael Wehunt, Christy DeMeester, C.M. Muller, Christopher Slatsky. We've got a Philip Fracassi story coming up in issue 21. So, and we've been adding more and more fiction to it. So where it used to be a comic magazine with a piece of fiction and articles, it is now becoming a fiction magazine with a comic or two and articles like that.
So, on average, how many stories per issue will you have going forward, do you think, on average?
At least 3. I'm guessing we'll probably bump that up to 4 or 5. It just depends on the length of the stories and space limitations. Because we are really just a glorified fanzine. We print this here in Seattle at a local printers, and so we're not making thousands of copies. We keep the magazine in print, and so as far as issue 1 goes, there are 1,000 or 2 copies available. But with issue 21, we'll print up a couple hundred copies, and then as they sell, we replenish.
Kelly, do you only sell them? Can you only buy them online? I just bought the most recent copy online. I looked at the bookstores here and comic book shops and find it. Do you distribute only through online sales?
Well, no, that is the main place to get it. It is really a 2-person production here. So Rick and I are taking care of all of this stuff, and unless we have made a personal deal with a comic shop, then they're probably not going to carry it. We're not distributed by Diamond or the other, I can't remember what the secondary distribution company is. But so everything is done this way, and it's all very ultra small press.
Okay.
But you know, and I'm not just saying this, it's really, really a quality magazine. I mean, if you're a Lovecraft fan, if you're a fan of weird fiction, you really should pick up an issue and, you know, see what you think. For those who have never read it yet and never bought an issue, would you recommend starting them at 19 now that you know the direction you're going, or does it matter?
It doesn't matter. If you're someone like me and you've got that collector mentality, you're going to want to start, you know, at issue 1, because some of the comics are 3 or 4 issue arcs. I thought that the quality took a huge jump at issue 9, and so everything got a little better there for me personally. That's the stuff that I'm the most proud of, is issue 9 on. But when you say it's a quality magazine, the thing that I'm really proud of is we're just a couple of guys, but we're both proficient. When I started Planet Lovecraft, it was me doing everything in Photoshop, and it was backbreaking work and pain in the ass. And then Rick comes in, and Rick has an InDesign background and stuff like that, and you know, now every page, his whole thing was just because it's black and white doesn't mean it can't be interesting, and so every page has texture to it, and we have, you know, obviously a big color section, stuff like that. But it's a really attractive magazine.
Well, you know what? That's one of the things I really dig about your magazine, man. It's like, I grew up on creepy and eerie, and, you know, magazines of that ilk. And the black and white thing has always appealed to me. And to see that kind of carried forward is a very cool thing. I mean, I dig the magazine, you know, very much. It also has very much its own personality. And the combination of material that you guys have in there is also unique, I feel, among a lot of the other publications that are trying to do something similar.
Well, thanks, Will. Yeah, the real thing for me was, you know, and as you look back on your life and you get older, you realize these memories you have that maybe something else was happening than what you thought was happening at the time. And I grew up in a tiny little town in Washington called Bellingham, and there was a head shop there called Rawls that just happened to have ice cream. And after church, Mom would take us to Rawls for ice cream. But I have a feeling that she was getting something else there. And so down below this ice cream shop was the head shop, and I remember going down with her, the incense burning and glass pipes and everything, and Heavy Metal magazine on the stands. And I'm, 9 years old, and I reach out to pick up this magazine, and my mom just slapped my hand. And from then on, it was like, I gotta know what is going on here.
Yeah, that was the exact wrong thing for her to do. If she would have just looked at it and go, "It's pretty boring stuff," you probably would have went, "Yeah."
Yeah, and so when we came back to this, when Rick came back to it and approached me about continuing, it was with a real sense of, okay, these were the magazines that we loved. Let's really make a love letter to them rather than just try and put something that would sit next to them on the stand. It was, let's wear it on our sleeves that we love creepy, eerie, and even the old famous monsters stuff. That's where the idea of bringing in articles and talking to various people.
Yeah. You say it's two guys, but now you've got Justin as the fiction editor, right?
Right.
So what exactly does Steely J do?
Justin, first of all, if you know Rick and I and Justin would be the nice guy, and everybody loves Justin. And so as soon as we brought Justin in, all of a sudden we just started getting a ton of people submitting stories that that just wanted to work with Justin. And Rick and I sat back in our big plush leather chairs and clinked our scotches together and congratulated ourselves on bringing him into the magazine.
I really love Justin.
Everybody loves Justin.
Everybody loves Justin.
I don't know. If he's not as nice as you think. If you read Laird Barron's story in Autumn Cthulhu, there's another side to that guy.
I had a, at the Lovecraft Film Festival, there's a cigar shop there that I brought Justin to because we're both cigar smokers and scotch drinkers. And we sat there in this place and smoking these cigars, and the owner came and said, what are you guys doing here? And we told him we were there for the film festival. And he brought us into this back room, and it was this like a witch's coven or something. There were 6 or 8 people back there. The entire place just had this low-hanging haze, and they were pouring plastic cups of scotch to everybody. And we sat there and yacked with these 6 or 8 people who were all yacht owners and stuff like that. And Justin came out of there, and he was like, holy cow, I feel like I'm in the Illuminati now. And I was like, stick with me, kid.
You aren't going places.
With plastic cups yet. So, are you still invitation only? And Justin just reaching out to...
Yes. Justin opened it up to submissions. And that's the one thing with Ted and with Justin is I stepped back from that and I said, because we can't pay our writers at all what they're worth. We can't pay our artists what they're worth, and I certainly can't pay our fiction editors what they're worth. And so the attraction is, if you're going to be a fiction editor here, this is your deal. You curate this, and we'll print it. And so Justin, because of his contacts, has been able to just bring in these amazing stories, and it's all kind of up to him what's going on. I mean, I told him that I was looking for I wasn't looking for Lovecraftian stories so much as I was looking for kind of dirty, filthy, scary horror. And he said, oh, dirty, filthy, scary are 3 of my best friends. So
I'd just like to make a comment, though. You put out some interesting little chapbooks.
And we've done some other stuff as we've been trying to figure out what else we could do, like Mike Dubish's Wet Nurse, which is this gigantic, oversized, like the old Marvel Treasury editions of the 70s. And then we've got a Joe Culver chapbook, and we actually put out a chapbook that I wrote and had Rob Corliss illustrate, and the entire purpose of that was to show other authors that we were interested in getting into this chapbook business, and maybe we weren't as well known or could pay as much, but we were going to bring a design sense that these other things do not have. And so the chapbook that is mine is a heavy metal horror story, and we packaged it in a, thank you, Mike,
Yeah.
we packaged it in a 45 sleeve, and it looks like a 45.
Yeah, it's very, very well done. Very clever.
Yeah, thanks. We were really, really happy with that.
Yeah, and here's a, I don't know, here's a sample page.
It's got sketches throughout, and then it's got some color illustrations. It's yeah, it's a really cool thing. My mom loves it.
What was in
Yeah,
the,
I'll bet.
what was in the Joe Pulver chapbook?
Joe actually did a H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival Portland specific story, and it's got Mike and Lena Griffin in it, and it's got a couple other people in it. He threw me in there, and Nick Gucker, and it all kind of takes place at the Portland Film Festival, and it's got a very cosmic horror ending to it.
So the bottom line is they shouldn't go to film festivals with you.
Right.
Otherwise you get destroyed by Lovecraftian monsters, seems to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know, that thing you fooled Justin into doing, I got Carpenter and Kreitner on that one too. It works, you know, the right people.
Well, because, and you understand this, I mean, you put a lot of design work into this, and so
I'm sorry, Matt.
it takes a long time to put together an issue of this magazine, and then if you're spending that time reading the fiction and trying to curate illustrations or sequential stories, comics and things like that, then you don't have time to do anything else. And I have a day job. You know, I got to pay the bills somehow. My favorite thing was Gwen Callahan. I was out to dinner with her one night, and she said, "So, do you just do Strange Eons, or do you have anything else?" And I laughed and laughed and laughed. And I said, "No, I have a day job that pays for Strange Eons. Strange Eons doesn't even pay for itself most of the time."
Yeah, all kidding aside, I said what you said to Justin, I said the same thing to Matt and Alex, that I didn't, you know, I wanted to take a step back and focus on the book publishing and a few other things, and so it was up to them what was published. So, and they're doing a great job.
Yeah, and you know what it really comes down to is Justin has more friends than I do, but we all knew that.
I was trying to be diplomatic and not say that. So, all right. Well, it's Strange Eons or Aeons, however you want to say it. But if you want to Google it, it's strange-eons.com, but it's AEONS, or you can just Google Strange Eons magazine. But just remember the A.
Yes.
And you'll come right to it. So
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Thanks,
Okay,
Mike.
now, one thing we need to talk about is we have a new panelist, and we need to know what she's doing these days and about all those books behind her, and what's coming up next for her publications, because he just had a really nice chapbook published, right? Was that Stag in Flight?
Yes.
Very fascinating work.
Yeah.
So,
Well, first of all, I want to say to Kelly, my hat's off to you, Kelly. He's running. I, with some friends, published a small press magazine years and years ago, and we kept it going for about 3 years. It's a hell of a lot of work. It's all, you know, when you're putting it together yourself, it's always a labor of love. And we did the same thing. We were, you know, working day jobs together. A friend and I were working jobs as editors at this corporation, and that paid for the magazine.
Uh-oh, SP froze.
She's as cold as ice.
Yeah, when she was on as a guest 2 weeks ago, she didn't have any problems, but I think she just moved to a new. I know she moved to a new place, but I'm not sure if she's in a new town or what.
Well, okay. Well, we could talk a little bit about Dim Shores Publishing. They're doing a series of chapbooks where each one has a different artist to illustrate the work of a new author or a different author.
Yeah, and Sam will be on the 21st, by the way, Matt.
Oh, good. Well, they're doing these really cool chapbooks. Well, SP just had one come out called Stag in Flight, and the artwork had Nick the Hat and a cover by Matthew Revert. It's really a beautiful little book. They are down to only a few copies left, and they're kind of a bargain price. It's only $8. So I posted the link on the web's page.
Yeah, published by Dim Shores, and the title is Stag, S-T-A-G, in Flight. And, yeah, interesting little story. So, well, while we wait for her to come back, what else did I have scheduled here? I wanted to ask you, are any of you guys misfits or social defectives?
Every day.
Raise your hand if you are.
I know I am.
Okay.
You know, I look into people's houses and ask them that question at supper time, and they don't comment. I don't know.
You got to take the gag out of their mouth, Matt.
Okay. I know it's screwing up somehow.
Hey, she's back.
She's back. There she is.
Sorry.
Hey, you moved to a new town, didn't you, SP?
No, we
Just
have not moved. Corey got a job working remotely. So it's contract work. He's going to be doing all of the work here. So we're still in California. And,
Oh, well, I just asked if your internet connection last time was no problems at all, and so I didn't know if you changed it.
Yeah, we've rearranged everything, and so what I'm probably going to do next time is I will try it in another area. I'll try it in the other room and set up things a little differently. So maybe we'll
Yeah, what works for me is if I stand right near the router and pray ahead of time. The things go smoothly.
Stroking it, yeah. Nice.
You're in California. Just get some little tiny lizards and a razor blade, and you make sacrificial cuts, and everything works really well. Just
you're really into the sacrificial. Okay, I'll try that.
I think you're confusing California for Florida, actually.
Well, yeah, Florida.
I have ants now too, so I have plenty of ants to burn. I can. So, but what I was going to say before was, hats off to you, Kelly, because it's such a great labor of love, and you've been really successful at the magazine, and it's a lot of work. So I congratulate you. And I'm looking forward to the issue that I just ordered.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I had wanted to talk to you when you were on last time, but I didn't want to derail the conversation because I know you lived in Seattle for a while, and I was curious whereabouts.
I lived in Seattle for a long time. Yeah, Corey and I lived in Seattle for a long, long time. We lived on Capitol Hill.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Yeah, loved it. It's changed a lot since we moved away.
Yes.
But it's a great place. So.
Beautiful there, yeah.
And I wanted to say, you were speaking of Gwen Callahan before. This was the last edition of the Challenge from Beyond, and I'm very excited because I get to take part in this year's edition. So I'm going to be the end of the line, I think. I think I get all of the sections here in a couple of weeks or so. And
that's the hardest one, isn't it? In a round robin, to be at the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my wife comes to me today and she says, all your birthday presents are going to be late. And I said, late? Why are they going to be late? She said, because the people I ordered from them aren't available to ship them yet. I'm like, oh, Glenn and Brian are at the HP Lovecraft Film Festival in Providence, or Gen Con. Or, I was like, yeah, I could have told you that. just like, she's being all mysterious, and it's like, I know exactly who she's ordering stuff from.
Be honest, Pete. What you really said was, why are they going to be late?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, and heaved a big sigh.
Yeah.
And at least kind of raised his hand.
Tell me why they're going to be late, woman. Get
You're
back
gonna get
in
me in
the
trouble.
sandwich.
Well, I think a 60th birthday should be special. Things should be on time.
Wait. It's not. It's 49, dude.
You look
49.
so good, Pete. So
You make-
good.
You're
You're
looking very
Peter-
natural.
You're making Pete as old as me and Joe.
Yeah. Older.
I didn't think I would make it past
Well,
25.
no. Yeah. You're,
Well,
None of
Joe,
us did.
Joe might be. Joe is probably 1 year older than me because my birthday's in October. I think his came recently.
If I had known I was going to make it this long, I would have done all that heroin back in the 80s.
all right. So, in the absence of anything else to talk about, I'm going to really derail the conversation, as I do occasionally. This has nothing to do with Lovecraft or even weird fiction, but we're all geeks, and I won't spend more than 5 minutes on this if you don't want to. But came across an interesting Facebook post yesterday, and I did not comment because I thought, well, I'll just tell this guy off in person. The author said, no, I'm not. I actually agree with a lot of it. So the premise of the Justice League movie is that Batman is recruiting heroes, hoping they will battle. Yes, it's by Pete Rawlik. They will battle a coming enemy. But he should already have that answer. Kryptonians invaded, and Wonder Woman and Aquaman did nothing. They began terraforming the Earth, and not a peep. A swirling ring of light and garbage sits over a major city for a week, and not one hero, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, or the Flash, show up. This is why you don't do world-destroying storylines. They have continuity issues. Well, first of all, that was just a day, wasn't it?
No. Okay, so think about it. Midway City, and that's when I'm talking about the swirling garbage of light. That's Midway City. That's Suicide Squad. They evacuate that entire city. It's not a day.
You seen Suicide Squad? Because I haven't yet.
Yeah, it's not a day. That there's an organized. You
In
don't
Man
just
of
evacuate.
Steel, it sure as hell looks like a day. It looks like a few hours at most.
Yeah, I know, but no, and they even mentioned it's been a couple of days.
Oh, wow.
But don't we have that same problem in a lot of Marvel films? Like, why don't the Avengers handle this problem?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
why does Iron Man have to handle the Mandarin all by himself?
Can I just throw a wet blanket on the whole thing? It's a comic book. But I know this really doesn't appeal to Pete, okay? Because
Yeah, but that
Lovecraft
same
wrote-
argument applies with Lovecraft and everything else. that we talked
Lovecraft wrote all these disparate works. He made no real attempt to link them together very well. They contradict each other, and then. But if you can't stand that, what you do is you create a timeline, and then you link all the stories into an overarching weird company kind of book. But so it's just Pete's nature that he's not going to be able to stand this inappropriate continuity, whereas the casual viewer is going to say, it's a comic book, cool.
Well, having not seen Suicide Squad yet, my argument to Pete was going to be this was just a few hours. So I will leave that aside. The swirling spaceship and ring of cars and everything over Metropolis. Yeah. All right, well, we'll leave that aside for a second because I haven't seen Suicide Squad. I can look. We know what Batman was doing. He was obviously not anywhere near Gotham, and he heard there was an alien invasion, and he flew himself in to try and, it kind of broadsided him. Okay, Wonder Woman.
Well, just as we always say guys have day jobs here.
He's got a day job.
Besides these heroes having day jobs, you also have private lives. Maybe maybe Barry, when it was on vacation, was Iris somewhere.
Well, Barry might not be the
Fucking
Flash yet.
If you're going to talk about this, I'm going to go play Pokemon. Here's the deal, Pete. We didn't find out what Batman was doing until the next movie. Superman was Superman's story. They're going to retrofit all these stories to make sense, I'm sure. I mean, that kind of shit.
I'm not totally sure that that's right, but that maybe they'll come close. But I can certainly see why the heroes you mentioned did not show up, and I won't spend a lot of time on that because I think some of the commenters did a fair job of saying why Wonder Woman, Aquaman, or Barry Allen, the Flash. He's probably the easiest to explain. He may not have had his powers yet.
Really, absolutely.
Plus, the guy's a kid. I mean, come on.
I hope at least one commenter thanked Pete and said, "Why don't you just relax and enjoy a movie once in a while?"
No, you know what? Here's the problem I have is that the movie stands well on its own. I don't have a problem with the movie standing by itself.
Suicide Squad, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
When you try and shove it into the bigger continuity, it starts to fall apart.
Yeah, I hear you.
What was your overall review of the movie? Thumbs up?
It's not a great movie. It's not a bad movie. It's a popcorn movie. I went to have fun. I had fun.
Sort of like Avengers 3. I mean, Captain America: Civil War.
Yeah, exactly. It's an okay movie.
Captain America: Civil War was a classic.
It was a classic popcorn movie. I enjoyed it, but
well constructed, well plotted, far superior to a equivalent DC movie.
So,
anyway. I'll get into that debate.
All right. So anyway, I do want to say something that I've been asked several times and have never answered until now. You know this.
Why are you a virgin?
Yeah. Right. And I like to just get this out and get it off my chest, and then you guys can tell me I'm wrong afterwards if you want. But this whole Kal-El killing, snapping Zod's neck, and the people who had a problem with it, as well as Batman killing people in Batman v Superman, the problem I have with these arguments are that Superman has killed in the canon. I don't mean in a elsewhere world story, but he's killed in the canon before. And it was never a situation as dire as this. In fact, in Superman 2, just because it happened off screen doesn't mean it didn't happen. Superman killed Zod, a powerless Zod. He tosses him, and the guy, I mean, come on, the guy had to die. And if he didn't die, it wasn't for lack of trying. You know what I mean? There's this kid, I know I'm old, but this 30-year-old kid who has never been in a fight in his life in Man of Steel. You know, Clark's never been in a fight in his entire life. Suddenly he's fighting a super soldier, and he's got one chance. Here, he's got the, you know, upper hand for this brief moment, and he's got to make a split-second decision. And I'm not saying he did a wonderful thing, but it was certainly the lesser of two evils. And it's funny to me how we applaud in real life and movies, you know, the good guys killing the bad guys. But if Superman or Batman feel the need to do it, suddenly it's awful, and that's not really Superman, or that's not really Batman. The fact is, Superman's killed in the canon before. The Superman that's just been reintroduced in the New 52, that's the guy who killed 3 Phantom Zone guys, right, Pete? You remember that?
I do. Yeah. And not that being sent to the Phantom Zone is any better.
No, it's not. In fact, it's worse, I would argue. You know, I mean, basically he's got in the comic he's got 3 powerless, depowered Kryptonians from another plane of existence, from another dimension, and they're basically telling Superman, "We'll find a way to get our powers back, and we're going to come after your world." And he basically says, "I can't let that happen. I'm going to kill you."
Right.
But you know, that's okay. And Clark killing in Superman 2, that's okay because it was Christopher Reeve, right? And Christopher Reeve can do no wrong. But when Henry Cavill's Superman does it, all of a sudden, that's not Superman. You know, there is no real version of Superman. There is no real version of Batman because they're fictional characters. And I might not care for the 1966 version of Batman.
The best.
But he's still Batman. He's just one version of Batman. You know, so I guess my real point is, in a funny sort of way, is don't take it so seriously. You know.
Anyway, Batman and the other in Michael Keaton, Christian Bale movies killed guys.
Yeah, absolutely killed guys. The 1989 Batman blows up a whole building full of Joker's henchmen.
Well, first I'd say you screaming, "Don't take it so seriously," might
Shut up,
mean that
Kelly.
you're taking it a little too seriously, Mike. Secondly, I love the guys that say Batman doesn't use guns, except for in every single movie on his vehicles.
Right.
He's got some 90 caliber weapon loaded on there.
Just on the vehicles he uses guns.
Right. Those don't count. Those are
rubber
cannons.
bullets.
This is really what it comes down to is just the internet culture and geeks especially. And I say that lovingly because I am definitely a geek. But if
we all are.
Batman existed in the real world and he was then cast in a Batman movie, the geeks would scream about that casting. So it's just something people like to argue online.
It's just that I'm a misfit. That's all.
Right.
You're a
I'm
social defective.
Yeah, I for sure am.
All Lovecraftians are social defectives. That's what I learned this previous week. So, or most of them. I don't remember the exact quote, but I think we'll settle on most. So yeah.
That being said, the new Wonder Woman looks amazing, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I agree with you, man. That trailer looks great.
It does.
Oh, the trailer, okay.
You know, and I gotta say, I really like the music too, and that theme that they hit when they show her photograph in Batman v Superman. That's a really great theme they came up with, musical theme.
And I think they came up with a good idea in setting it during World War I rather than competing with Captain America.
That's what I was going to say. It's better to do it that way than compete with, repeat Captain America.
Yeah. Was that theme that you loved, Mike? The do 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 Wonder Woman.
No, but that one's good too.
Well, if you ever watched the Brave and the Bold cartoon, they did nice tributes to all the classic Batman and Wonder Woman TV shows.
Nice.
Have you guys watched the Ultimate Edition of the Batman vs Superman?
It explains everything. I love that.
I haven't seen it yet. You recommend it?
Oh, I wouldn't watch the other one now. If they would have allowed, first of all, you know what, Kelly, you're right. No matter what happens, somebody's going to bitch. But that being said, if they could have shown that 3-hour Ultimate Edition in the theater, I think Rotten Tomatoes, the score would be higher because it's pretty well done, and and I like noir. Okay, it's a noir superhero movie.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I saw the edited version as opposed to the ultimate version, and I was in the minority of people that I actually enjoyed the movie. Yeah, it had its flaws, but I kind of rolled with it. I enjoyed the kind of grand opera of it, as opposed to a lot of things in the Marvel canon where everything is kind of taken a little more. Oh, let's face it, it's a little more soundly in reality. I kind of like the the kind of grander scale of things, even though sometimes some people maybe they're not going with it, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I didn't love it.
I do recommend the Ultimate Edition.
Cool.
Sorry, Kelly, what?
I didn't love it, but I'll go as far as to say I thought that Ben Affleck is the best Batman we've had. I'll stick my neck out there for that.
I agree.
Same.
And I did like Christian Bale quite a lot, but he seems less the version of Batman in the canon in the comics than he is a really cool James Bond in a bat suit.
Yeah.
He's
Of the actors who've played Batman, I would say, well, George Clooney he looked right, but he didn't do it well. Val Kilmer and Ben Affleck were the only ones that I could really buy were the Bruce Wayne that I read.
Val Kilmer.
That's it. You're off the show.
All I'm going to say is that Val Kilmer would be a great Bruce Wayne for Batman Beyond.
When Superman goes to Batman, you don't understand when they're about to fight, and then Batman goes up to him right nose to nose and yells, "I understand." That's a scary Batman, man. That's the Batman from the comics.
Well, there's definitely, for me anyway, personally, like Ben Affleck's portrayal, there's just much more. You're afraid of this guy, as opposed to a lot of the other Batmans. There isn't that sense of danger. It's somehow toned down. So that was one of the things that really appealed to me, with his portrayal. I thought he was spot on.
Did the expanded edition explain when Superman learned that Batman was Bruce Wayne?
No, but it sure as hell explained a lot of other things that were not, I thought, even implied well enough in the theatrical edition. You know what? If you liked the theatrical version even a bit, I would say go out and watch the expanded edition because it fills in a lot of holes. So.
That was my major complaint. There were a lot of continuity things. One or two I could go by, let go. But with this too much going, how does he know that?
Well, I think it's pretty easy to, how Superman knows who Batman is. He's got X-ray
he
vision.
could have used X-ray vision, I know. It
Yeah.
would have been nice to have a scene.
Yeah, but no, without being a dead horse, they do fill in a lot of plot holes. Yeah, too late. It's a good movie.
Ooh.
None of you guys have seen the expanded edition?
Not yet.
It's on the list.
Well, what are you doing here?
Talking about human sacrifice.
Cats and dogs living together. All right,
We
do we
might
have
as well sign out. I'm sure we have lost every single viewer as soon as we started talking about
As soon as I said Batman, they're like, oh, fuck.
Here we go again. Mine's on his Batman kit.
Did you hear that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going supernatural this season?
with Ghost Rider.
I
Yeah.
don't know what that. Oh, okay. That sounds cool.
It's not the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider though.
Right. I've been kind of away from comics for years, and I didn't realize that he drove a souped-up Charger now, but I'm all for that.
Well, the reason they're bringing him in, probably the prevalent theory is because in the comics, his arch enemy is Daisy's father.
Oh.
So Kyle MacLachlan is probably coming back.
So
Yeah,
he's gonna
he was
he's gonna have a busy year with Twin Peaks and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. then.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. When does Twin Peaks come out?
2017.
Oh, is it that long?
Yeah, it's still next year.
Okay.
So, if we're done flogging a dead bat horse,
That wasn't. That was Marvel, sir. That was Marvel.
Yeah.
We were just talking about Marvel.
are we allowed to talk about Stranger Things now? We
You
don't-
mean with
Yeah.
with spoilers? You mean?
No, no
Yes.
spoilers.
Yeah. Why wouldn't we talk about Stranger Things?
Well, I don't know. We just haven't really.
Well, yeah, we can
It
talk
is a
about Stranger Things.
Lovecraftian show.
Kind of, sort
To
of,
a degree, yeah.
to the same extent that The Mist is.
Sure.
And who knows what would happen in future seasons? Because I think the going was that storyline. When you and Kelly were discussing it last time, Kelly I think thought they might abandon that storyline. I think they left too many unanswered questions there.
Yeah, they're apparently going for it. And now SP can jump in because I know this is the only reason she joined us is to talk about Stranger Things.
So please do.
I was hoping that they would go for a different storyline. I was hoping this would be a little more like Fargo. We would have overlapping and interrelated stories, but not pick up where this story left off. I'm not sure I want to fill in those gaps. So I don't know. Maybe they'll come up with something ingenious. Maybe this will be something that I can't even imagine. It'll be very exciting. But I was hoping that they would go maybe with some different characters, focus. Maybe the principals would be a different group of the characters, and they'd go in a different direction, sort of the way that Fargo's been handled. But
Well,
I like the way you're thinking there. Yeah.
I read it. Who was it? The two brothers who created the show.
Yeah.
They said something to the effect that they had interviewed, or I guess, lots and lots of child actors to come up with this group that they thought they could work with.
mm-hmm.
Very natural on screen, and it's almost like they're too invested, I think, to.
Oh.
those child actors were excellent.
Yeah. Has everyone here?
11 and Dustin, I thought, were remarkably good. They're just really, really excellent.
Is
young
Dustin the guy missing his front teeth?
Yeah, Dustin and the girl 11 were just extraordinary. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just
Well-
watch a show with Dustin wandering around doing his daily stuff.
I
Well,
would love the Dustin story, sure.
hang on one second. Has everyone here seen Stranger Things then?
Yep, all the way through.
All right, so why don't we have a spoiler discussion for the next 10 minutes before we end the show? So if you're listening, you have not watched Stranger Things, shut us off. So spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Let's talk about Stranger Things. You've been warned. And then you can always come back to this after you've seen it. All right, so spoiler-filled discussion. Anyone want to start? Somebody want to explain that ending to me?
I want 1 through 10.
What?
No, it's 11, right? She's 11. Where
So
are 1?
Oh, yeah.
We'll run through 10.
Right?
Okay, so as far as the ending goes, Mike, I thought there were 2 things about it. First, the sheriff or chief of police or whatever he was putting Egos in that wooden box. So it's almost like that's a drop box that I think L is able to pick up on the other side.
And prior to that, we just see him ushered into a vehicle, and that happens before the party where he grabs the food for her.
Yeah.
So he's privy to some knowledge.
Wasn't that before they jumped ahead in time? I think it was right after everything ended. He was leaving, and then he got into a vehicle.
Well,
Right.
yeah. And
It was
then
like
they went to the
2.
Christmas party.
I thought it was before the Christmas party.
It was.
It was,
So
yeah.
Yeah.
there was something that we don't know happened with the government, and was it in Texas? Okay.
Those bastards that want to take away your gun. That's the government.
The shop, as I like to call
Does
it.
anybody actually know where it takes place? Because I think it could be either West Virginia or.
Oh, it had a location. I don't remember what it is, but it's
Yeah,
Midwest.
I think if we go back to the first episode, say Hawkins, whatever.
I'm pretty sure it was one of the 48 continental states. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, that helps. That helps a lot.
That's what I'm here for.
Mike taking a strong stance.
You can look it up in Wikipedia.
And I will argue with anyone who says otherwise.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't Florida or California.
But the thing
I
was
was
the
thinking-
sheriff.
Yeah.
The sheriff, you assume that the deal he made was you let us go if we find the kid. Let us find the kid and we'll never tell anybody. But he made some other deal that we don't know.
Yeah.
It was filmed in Georgia, I guess.
Yeah, and it takes place in Jackson, Georgia.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, south, huh?
Okay.
But it's set in the 80s,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, and I talked about that in a post because I think one of the underlying themes behind this whole series is miscommunication or the failure to communicate. There's the phones blow up, literally. The phones blow up. The ham radio blows up. The kids are the younger kids aren't talking to the older kids, and that is a whole huge plot point that they have to resolve in the last episode, because all the brother and sister had to do was say something to each other, and a lot of the plot would have just vanished.
Yeah.
One criticism I have of the plot, I can't believe that mother would not have found evidence that a girl was living there.
Yeah, but you know what?
He's going to clean the basement at some point. I mean,
I was thinking that too.
You're going to say, oh, they left a mess in. I got to clean that basement.
There's a lot of suspension of disbelief, though. I mean, because for me personally, I mean, one of the things that really appeals to me about the show is that it is nostalgic. It really is a homage to those movies from the 80s. And if you look back to those movies, I mean, you're finding a lot of the gaping plot holes and things like that in those films as well. So for me, I just kind of went with it because I felt like it was a step back in time. I mean, that was the big appeal for me personally.
Sure. So, like, when did the movie The Thing come out? 82.
81.
Okay.
It was
And the
82.
movie was set in what? 83?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so they've got a Thing poster on the wall,
Right.
and they're what? 11?
Yeah.
Okay, which means that they were like 8 or 9 when The Thing came out. They're gonna have a Thing poster on the wall.
Well, that was my complaint, not just because of that, but it was impossible to get a Thing poster back then.
Right. So
all
I'm saying is this was an homage by the director, creator, writer, who probably loves the Thing, which made me love the show even more.
Well, and what you just said and what Will said is, I asked Kelly a couple of weeks ago, would you have enjoyed it as much if it was not set in the 80s? You know? Sorry, SP, I think I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, this is what you were saying about never cleaning the basement. The parents are so uninvolved in the kids' lives, and I think there's something a little bit romanticized about that. That whole nostalgia is also connected to the freedom that these children have. You know, people like to talk about that now. You know, children are so with helicopter parents, with people hovering over them all the time, as opposed to the way, you know, we mostly grew up, which was, you know, get out of the house, get out of my face. And so, you know, I think that there's a little bit of nostalgia in that. I think the whole premise, you know, the idea that these kids can carry on this mystery by themselves for such a long time before they have to connect with the grown-ups, before they have to have some kind of grown-up supervision or intervention or something.
Can I weigh in on that a little bit? Because as a parent, I really think there's a middle ground here. You know, this idea that your kids can be that involved in something like that and you have absolutely no idea what's going on with their life, I would feel like I failed as a parent, frankly. And I'm not a parent that hovers over my kid by any means, but to know that little.
Sure, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that I think they've romanticized the story. They've made it very
right.
Yeah, but the mother knew when Nancy, you know, came home in the morning and so forth.
Right.
She was keeping tabs on Nancy.
I would say two things. You know, my folks both had jobs. They were gone all the time, it seemed like to me. I had a lot of free time. I could be gone until dark and nobody would worry at all.
Mm-hmm.
But also, this kind of throws back to, say, E.T., whereas, you know, they kept an alien hidden in the house for a week and Mom didn't find out about it. So,
yeah.
as if it feels unbelievable, we were making those kind of movies that would feel unbelievable back then, and Will is saying that for him what mattered was nostalgia, but I would say that the strength of the entire series is nostalgia.
Agreed, man. Totally agree.
Goonies. They draw a lot from the Goonies, so yeah, very much a feeling of the kids' world.
You look at like a lot of the John Hughes movies, even like to digress, but you know the John Hughes movies at the time, and how the adults are just not present. It's like this world that these kids live in, and it may not be a reflection of reality even at that time. I mean, you know, I remember I grew up in the same time, but you know, I agree with you about the whole romanticization of it. But a lot of the films at that time, it's like it's the same type of thing. Like the E.T. thing's a great analogy.
Yeah, it's a story about these kids. It's not really a story about their lives. It's just a story about these kids. These kids are the heroes of this particular story.
Yeah.
It's funny because I've had an opportunity lately, and I accidentally de-romanticized my childhood.
I can't imagine your childhood was romantic at all, Pete.
No. I went on Google Earth, and I looked at my old neighborhood, and I looked at the places that I thought, oh my God, I'm straying out of bounds. And I'm like, oh, the one time I walked home from high school. And I'm thinking, oh, that was like 10 miles. It's 2 miles. You know,
yeah.
When we biked down the train tracks and around the lake and through the graveyard, I was like, I ended up I'm like 3 blocks from my house. It was, it's just.
6'6" Pete Rawlik takes much longer strides than 10-year-old Pete Rawlik did.
I think that's the point. You know, when you're a kid, everything seems so far, and when you're an adult, it's like, yeah, that's right around the corner. It doesn't really mean that much.
Right.
teenage and preteen rebellion, and I snuck out past Edge Hill Drive, and I went up past the highway. I'm like, it's no big deal. I can remember when once I was stuck far from home, 3 blocks, and I snuck into the woods and I peed against a tree. Right? I got home.
You are
5 minutes later. My mom was waiting for me and said, somebody called and said they saw you pee against a tree.
Wow. I'm just hoping that the statute of limitations for public indecency is passed.
It's like, what the hell? It's like, so we said we had, free-range kids, but everybody was out there watching you.
Yeah.
I was never free-ranged.
I'm guessing it depends on the part of the country and the neighborhood as well, though, Pete.
What really scares me is that not only did they know who I was, they had my phone number.
Okay, so to bring this back to
photographs, for all you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
It must have been that government agency.
That's right.
Yeah,
Matthew Modine was spying on you.
Well, to bring this back to Stranger Things, I really enjoyed it. I thought that Winona Ryder was the weak link, unfortunately.
I agree.
I would agree with that.
And she's kind of the tie to the 80s with it, and so that's a bit of a bummer. I'm curious where they'll go from here. If they're going to tell another story that is just 11 is out, because I'm not interested in that, and I agree completely with SP in that I would have been fine with like a side quill or something that took place in a different time period that maybe was the same characters, older, or something like that. But as far as I can tell, there is not enough unanswered questions to justify a sequel.
Well, what is that dimension the tip of the iceberg?
Are you talking about just the government agency?
No, I'm just saying, where that monster came from. Are there other creatures which are vastly different?
Well, we saw an egg.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, and we've got the...
Or just like over the top too, man. All the homages were just like awesome to see.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Film homage to that, film homage to this film. I mean, it's so ripe with it. That was something I really enjoyed.
And if they go in a completely different direction and we decide to kind of follow the kid who was lost in the Upside Down and just say, okay, he brought something back with him, and then, the Upside Down is no longer the main part of this story, then I guess I could get behind that. But
I can't have what I want. I want Barb back.
Yeah, I wanted to bring
I was really disappointed that Barb got killed.
Not going to happen.
I was a little disappointed that Barb got killed too. I was kind of like, really? After all of this, we're going to find out she just was a victim?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up Barb as well because several people linked to an article on Vox. The title of the article is Stranger Things treatment of Barb reveals the show's greatest flaw, its limited view of women. And you guys can get into this if you want, but one of the arguments is that when what's the kid's name that disappears? I forget.
Will.
Will. When Will disappears, the town freaks out. When Barb disappears, nobody believes that she's gone, first of all, and no one seems to care.
It's not even mentioned.
Yeah, and I thought in watching the show, please correct me if I'm wrong, I thought that was because she was, in 11th or 12th grade, and she had a car, and she could run off to a relative in another state.
Yeah,
Am I forgetting something?
Her personality is presented.
I'm sorry?
That is so unlike her personality as it was presented.
Yes, that's very true. So the argument in the article is that, they're not portraying women the way that they should, and that may or may not be true. Yeah, I can see the argument. I thought it was because she was older, but who knows? What do you guys think of that?
I
I'm sorry, I missed your point there. I'm sorry, I was out.
No, that's fine. The article's basically talking about the way that the show represents women, and it's you know that when Will disappears, the whole town freaks out, and
Well,
when Barb disappears, no one really notices.
but
It's
at that
hardly
point,
mentioned.
they mentioned 2 missing hunters, and no one really looked into linking the two.
Yeah.
And I think someone else disappeared, and no one mentioned it. It was like, at that point, I think, okay, this isn't exactly what people want, but it was just a plot device to keep adding kind of a creepy element in the background of what was going on with our heroes.
Yeah.
So I agree that it's very disappointing that that happened, but I'm not surprised in terms of what they were doing with their 6-hour show or 8-hour show or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
10 hours.
Speaking of which, the Duffer, I just linked a little interview with the Duffer brothers, and it looks like it's going to be a bit of a sequel, that they want to explore more about the below, or the upside down.
So let me just say one thing, because I think we can, you know, and Kelly brought this up, that there was a lot of homages to various other films. And I think that's very obvious, and we can do a scene-by-scene comparison. But I think in Stranger Things, that works where it did not work in Super 8.
Oh, I love Super 8 though.
I like Super 8 as well.
I felt that Super 8 took the best parts of my childhood and destroyed them. And I think that, yeah. I see you shaking their head there, Kelly.
Like
You're one of those
Ghostbusters.
guys. Your childhood got destroyed because
No,
somebody
not-
made a fucking movie.
Destroyed is such a bad word. It's just like didn't do them justice. It didn't do them justice. It used them and didn't instill a sense of nostalgia properly. I think this series did that for me.
Okay. Well, I mean, I hear you. Personally, I prefer Super 8 over Stranger Things, but I can see why. I can see it both ways. You know.
Yeah,
So can we get back to maybe it was because I don't know what exactly happened to that kid at the very end. What was going on?
He's impregnated.
Okay. All right.
He's got, you can, here's the sign of a good parasite. It doesn't kill its host. Great parasites don't kill their hosts.
Well, see, we have no concept of the reproductive cycle of that thing and whether that represents whatever the heck it represents.
Right.
Because wasn't there a Stephen King movie where there was this like alien kind of implanting itself in people's digestive tracts and trying to get to the reservoir?
Dreamcatcher. You're talking about shit weasels.
About what?
Shit weasels.
Yeah.
Oh God, why do I know these things?
Well, the thing is, unlike that movie, we don't know, because if so, he's like getting this thing into the water supply.
You don't. Well, here's the thing: you don't even know that what's coming out of Will's mouth at the end is actually from the thing that we've been seeing.
Or if that's Will.
Well, I guess what threw me a little bit is the flash of him being in the alternate dimension version of his house, and I'm thinking when I saw that, did he ever really get out?
Well, he was in that web-like thing, was that thing in his mouth.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what probably put parasite or whatever it is inside him.
Right.
If we're talking about nostalgia, yes, that's right out of Alien. That's exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought of Alien too when I saw that.
One of the other things that was interesting to me too, like budgetarily speaking, why things went a little more on the CGI version of way of things, and it was fine, but I would have liked to have seen a little more in the way of practical effects to really kind of do the whole nostalgic '80s thing. That was something I, from time to time, felt was a little that's the piece that's missing for me. You know?
May have been budget
Yeah, I'm sure.
disappointing, but but overall, I've enjoyed the experience. I watched the sequel. You know, it's like Mike. I preferred Super 8 a bit, and I also super enjoyed Super 8. I thought it was
I liked Super 8, but it falls apart in the third act, where I didn't think Stranger Things does.
No.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that too. Although I did quite like Super 8. The last act to me is kind of the whole alien monster and how they kind of dealt with that at the very end was also kind of unsatisfying for me.
Yeah, it was one of those things where when it started wrapping up, I was kind of like, wait a second, there's another 20 minutes left, right? Because we are not at the end of this story.
Yeah.
For me, it was the opposite with Stranger Things. I actually, the last couple of episodes, I was actually fast forwarding because I was like, they're just stretching this out.
Mike, nobody cares what you think.
I know, I know. But you have to listen because I'm the host. And that's the thing.
Well, one question about who in his right mind, if you're burning this crazy monster with fire, why take an extinguisher and say, oh, it must be burnt now?
Yeah, I'm with that. I've got a scorched earth.
If that was me, I'm saying I'm letting the whole house burn down.
Exactly.
Well, okay, so Mandy and I argued about this. Why would you even bother doing it in your own house?
Well, that's where the gateway is.
No.
You can go. Oh, you want to go out to the forest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you just
that
take
would have made more sense.
opportunity?
I just saying.
But in the forest, they just stumbled upon it. They don't. I thought that they didn't know where it was exactly. They couldn't find it again, and that's why they had to go through the house.
I agree completely. Yes.
Okay. I can live with that. It's just, I would have liked a little bit of explanation. One scene to do that would have solved everything.
Okay, my last question to you guys is, am I wrong? Was there just one monster in this alternate dimension?
You don't know that.
Well, in that.
That's all that was shown, right?
Right.
Yeah, you get the impression there was only one monster that was causing all the trouble.
It lost a little bit of its luster for me at that point.
If you say that, like, the rules of ecology apply, and there wasn't much other life in that area, and this is a top-level predator, it doesn't have much game, so it's going to have a big territory.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
There probably are other monsters, but they're just not in that section that was close to.
That's why it was hanging around that opening, was there was a lot more food.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if they've, in that interview, Matt, if they said when Stranger Things Season 2 is going to be out.
I'm assuming a year, but I don't know. I don't think it's said. I don't know.
Okay. Pete, were you going to say something?
It's not a long article. You can read it in a minute.
Well, it's funny because, one of the things I think I'd like to have explained is nothing seems to start until L opens, L makes contact. So, does the creature have the ability to open the gates? Or is it hijacking L's ability? Or did L teach it? Or did it always have this ability and then just never, but didn't know it existed until someone else showed it that there was another dimension? I think that last one is kind of interesting. Go ahead.
I would say, but also, correct me if I'm wrong, I got the impression that L opens the gate after that guy got murdered. He had the long metal thing attached to rope-like thing.
Right.
How did they learn about this dimension to begin with? That we don't know.
Well, no, I think Elle stumbled on it in one of her trips.
Okay.
I think she went someplace and they heard it growling.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's sort of like this transition where Elle is not all the way over into the dimension. I think that's what the black water is. That when Elle's walking on the black water, she's not...
Under the skin. It was exactly the same effect as Under the Skin, yeah?
Yes. Yeah. She's not quite in the other universe.
Right.
And neither is that thing, but it can sense her. And I think, is that like a trigger does it now know that there's another universe and it just has to figure out how to get there? And that's troublesome to me.
The other thing that came to mind when I was watching Stranger Things is it parts of it were familiar to me from the Dean Koontz book, Seize the Night. Have you read that, Pete?
A long time ago, so refresh my memory.
Yeah, it's about this.
Is there a dog in it?
No shit. Yeah, it is a Dean Koontz book. It's a very nice, intelligent dog, and everyone in there is the good guys are really, really good, and the bad guys are really, really bad.
And the dog is really, really smart.
Yeah, as a matter of fact. This evil government agency was performing interdimensional experiments, basically, and then they abandoned the whole thing. So, I don't know. There were parts of it that were very similar to Stranger Things.
I think I remember that book. I think I remember liking that book.
It's one of the better Dean Koontz books, which he needs an editor,
Yeah.
even back then. But
well, next week, after all this, I expect a spoiler-heavy discussion on Preacher, which I thought was a much better series.
I enjoyed it.
I'm enjoying it, but first of all, it's weird, but it's
I've seen the first.
About it because we want to talk about it, not because it's Lovecraftian.
Next week, you also have to deal with Mike Griffin. So.
That asshole.
Yeah.
If Preacher, I haven't seen it, but if it's like the comic strip, it's going to end up with a demented version of classic Christian theology.
It is exactly that.
All right, so
basically, God is really a real SOB, if I remember the comic book.
God is really a real SOB in the Bible.
Yeah.
Well, in the Old Testament, for sure.
So prizes, what did you have again, Matt? You had the latest Charlie Strauss book.
Yes, it is called The Nightmare Stacks. It doesn't feature Bob Howard per se, but it is a very interesting edition. You can read it as a standalone if you haven't read any of the other series.
Okay.
Right.
And then Will, you got 2 albums.
2 CDs of Infinite Spectrum's Haunter of the Dark. It's a progressive metal concept album based on H.P. Lovecraft's Haunter of the Dark. You can also get it at Amazon as well as lasersedge.com.
And available as an MP3 too, at a little bit lower price. All right, so if you want to be in the random drawing for these 3 prizes, please email lovecraftezine.prizes@gmail.com anytime between now and August the 14th, 2016, and I'll do the drawing a week from today before the show, and put the title of what you're going for in the subject of the email, which would be Haunter of the Dark or The Nightmare. What's the name of that again? I keep forgetting. The Nightmare what?
Stacks.
The Nightmare Stacks. Yeah, okay. So put that in the subject, and that makes it easier for me. Again, lovecraftezine.prizes@gmail.com. And then I'll do a random drawing a week from today and announce the winners of the previous show next week, too. Or, yeah, of this show. All right, so thanks, everybody. Great discussion, and we will talk to Mike Griffin next week.
Red pants, buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
See ya.